Val Garland, welcome to Show Studio.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I'm glad you think so. I do really want to start by asking what your first kind of memory of beauty was, your first beauty memory.
It would probably be Revlon Toasty Beige that was on my mum's dressing table. She used to wear this sort of like toffee-coloured sort of foundation, and yeah, I think that's my first memory. I think that must have been in the I don't know, in the 60s.
Were you playing dress up, having fun, copying your mum, or?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Tango oranged face matched the tango orange hair. I started putting Vim on my hair, Vim and water, and then going out in the sun. So basically I was sort of like chemically bleaching my hair with household products. You know, my mother would look at me in her Irish accent, sort of say, you know, how weird it was that my hair was sort of like blonde on the ends and dark at the roots. Little did she know. My sister was and is extremely gorgeous, and I thought, well, I don't want to be like that. I want to be different. I want to be noticed, but I don't want to be like everybody else. I quite like being the strange one. So I think that's where it started.
Talking about this experimentation, a little bit before that, you were kind of training to be a hairdresser at one point.
I sort of like trained for about, I think it was a year and a half, and then decided that I just wanted to do hair without completing the training. When I started doing hairdressing, it was at a very interesting time. Lots of different things were happening in hair, and you could teach hairdressing and you could travel with hair. And so I started teaching from an early age. When you're younger, you have that gung-ho, you can do anything. It's only perhaps as you mature, you know, perhaps you get a little more safe. But I've always thought, well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. Try something else. I was never into whatever it was I was doing for the money. It wasn't about the money, it was about doing something that was exciting and different. And remember, this is the 80s. We're all a bit new romantic. When you think about hairdressing salons, at that time, they, you know, there were some funky ones, but, you know, a hairdressing salon notoriously had, like, you know, magazines from 6 months ago, and you had to pay for your conditioner if you wanted them to give you conditioner. And it was just a little bit normal. And I thought, I want to do a salon that I'd want to go to, and what kind of a salon do I want to go to? I want to go to a nightclub. When I would interview people, I would say, come to work like you're going clubbing. You know, do not wear that little nice dress, because it doesn't work for me. You know, I want full makeup. I want hair. Lots of friends were photographers and makeup artists and models, because they all used to come to the salon. And I started testing with these photographers, and I used to wear tons of makeup, tons. And, you know, I'd sort of paint silly pictures on my face, you know, and I probably looked quite frightful, but I didn't care as long as people looked. So people kept asking me to do the makeup, do the makeup, do the makeup. And I was like, no, I'm quite happy doing hair. And then one day I was doing this shoot, and the makeup artist, I think they planned it, the makeup artist didn't turn up. And they sort of said, well, you're going to have to do the makeup, Val. And I said, well, I've only got what I always wear, which is like black, white, and red. You know, so there'd be a red lip, a big black eye, and my face would be sort of like white. I'm not a trained hairdresser, and I'm not a trained makeup artist. I'm predominantly self-taught. And I think back in the day when I started, there weren't very many self-taught makeup artists or hairdressers. You know, everybody did a training, but it's completely different now. There are people that are great technicians, and they know exactly how to do something every step of the way. And then there are people that are what I would call visionaries, or they're instinctive. They just do it because it feels right. And, you know, sometimes you can look at something and maybe it's not symmetrical, but it looks great. It looks really great, you know, because it's just a bit off. And I think I've always liked the idea of you have perfection and then you just destroy it a little bit. Back in the day, you would do a beauty shoot, perhaps, and the hair would be scraped back so that you can see the beauty. Boring. You know, I want whatever's happening here, or who is that person, you know? You need the hair, you need the great lighting, you need the great photographer, you need everything to fit together. So yes, I want to tell a story. I think I'm a storyteller, and I like to see a story when I'm looking at a visual. With Lee, there would be that narration, but then he would expect you to take it somewhere else. So it's like, look at this 18th century painting, or this Joel Whitkin book, and now let's put another spin on it. We would have the time to research and try things out. You know, we'd sort of probably spend about a month before, me and whoever the hairdresser was, usually Guido, trying things out, you know, and Polaroiding everything. And we'd have to take this imagery to Katie, because she would have to approve it before it even got to Lee, you know. And then, you know, when you get to that final moment where Lee is happy with what you've brought to the table, that could all change. Lee wants you on set for 1:30 to check the hair and makeup, to check the makeup in the lighting. So you've now got to go and do that, you know, and get final approval and still be at the show at 7. We were all striving for this fantastic moment. I always laugh, you know, because people sort of said, oh, you know, that must have been amazing, must have been working for Lee. And I'm like, it was amazing. We never got paid for it. You know, we never got paid. We did it for the love. Everyone has a good day, everyone has a bad day. You know, sometimes you just don't have a good makeup day and it's not working. So I always think, well, it's only makeup, take it off and try something else. And sometimes you're halfway through taking it off and suddenly it comes alive, and that's the right makeup.
What's been the most challenging thing you've had to deal with so far?
The most challenging situation I was ever in was quite a few years ago. Charlotte Stockdale asked me, would I do the very first ever Fashion Rocks? She said, okay, so we are going to have 18 designers. We're going to have 160 models. We are working in the basement, in the basement of the Albert Hall, and that's all tiny little sort of like caves, tiny little rooms. So we're working in there. I'm going to have 78 makeup artists. 78 makeup artists in different rooms. I will have 18 separate teams of 6. I think it's 6 makeup artists, each doing a different designer. All the looks have got to be different, and we've got 160 models, and sometimes we're sharing the looks. At the same time, I think Prince Charles and Camilla are going to be walking through backstage, and we've all basically got to get out of the way, you know? So that's slowing us up. And then, and also at the same time, we've got all these people on stage, like we've got Beyonce on stage. I know we've got Bjork on stage. I can't remember who else is on stage. Let's just say, but we've got a host of stars playing their music on stage, as well as the models going around. During all this mayhem, Lee McQueen comes backstage, finds me, he walks in with Bjork and he's like, all right. And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And he's like, he handed me this bag of Swarovski crystals and said, I want you to cover Bjork's face. I don't know if he talked like that, I can't remember. But I want you to cover Bjork's face in crystals. And she's on in an hour. And I'm like, I've got so much else to do. Okay, fine. So we get it done, and there's 3 of us, and we're all sort of like putting these crystals on Bjork's face. And then she goes on stage, and she sort of like sings her song. And the thing about crystals or glitter or anything like that is when you put light on it, it looks spectacular. The next day, I think it was in The Sun or the Daily Mail, Bjork had been captured because there was an after party. Lee had an after party that we all went to, and Bjork had said to me, would I take off some of the crystals? So it was just like this crystal mask. Anyway, so the next day she is photographed in the paper. They've snapped her, papped her, coming out of the after party, and she doesn't look good.
No.
What looked amazing the night before, she looked like Hannibal Lecter.
Oh no.
You know, it was flat because the light wasn't on it, and I was like, oh God. And yeah, that was
a challenge.
It happened. I mean, it was great at the event, but you know, be careful who photographs your work.
Now we're very much in this kind of Instagram age of beauty, and Botox seems to be incredibly prevalent. At the time it was a novel idea, but now this whole idea of kind of fixing and smushing and using makeup as a tool to change your face is completely of the norm. I'm really interested how you feel that kind of makeup has changed, and for better or for worse, perhaps through an Instagram lens.
I think it's an incredible journey, and it's got to happen. It's the normality as we move more towards our robotic selves. I think we'll all end up looking the same. You know, it'll be the same mouth, the same nose, you know, the same boobs. I think it's exciting. I think I've always liked the science of beauty. You know, the idea of tattooing your eyebrows. You know, 10 years ago, you would think, are you mad? But everybody does it now, you know, and it's like there are lots of Asian young girls who, you know, for their birthday, like say it's their 18th birthday, they have plastic surgery done, you know, whether it's to, you know, augment their eyes or lengthen their jaws or chins or whatever. It's become so normal now, you know, and it's the way it is, it's the future.
And also this idea of, I think Instagram also lends itself not only to this kind of future vision of what beauty should be, but a kind of how to get that. There's so many tutorials, everyone's almost a base level makeup artist, you could say, nowadays, but I think that takes away from this energy that we've just been talking about of gut visceral reactions.
When Show Studio first started, Nick has always filmed. He's always filmed in the studio. But we would never allow him into our room. He was not allowed into the makeup room because I didn't want him to see my process. I just want to be in my process. It's like if I'm doing something, I don't talk to the model because I'm working it out. I'll talk before or after, but when I'm in the moment, you're in the moment. And anyway, Nick said, like, I want to do a film of you. I want to do a film of you doing makeup. And I'm like, why? Why would anybody ever want to watch somebody else applying eyeliner? How boring. How wrong was I? How wrong was I? With everybody showing their process on how to do whatever, how to do a liner, how to block a brow, what have you, I hope that there will always be the freaks. You know, freaks like me, like I was. You know, people that don't want to look like anybody else. You know, I don't think we should all have the same eyebrow, you know. Individuality should always reign. You know, that should be the supreme ding-dong moment, you know.